Have you ever wondered what makes up every living thing on Earth? Well, the answer lies in the intriguing world of cells. These tiny, complex units are the fundamental building blocks of life. Let's take a trip back in time to the 17th century, when the concept of cells was first introduced. A curious scientist named Robert Hooke peered through a primitive microscope and discovered tiny compartments in a sliver of cork. He named these compartments cells, setting the stage for an entirely new understanding of life. Fast forward a few centuries to an age where microscopes have evolved tremendously, allowing us to observe these cells in stunning detail. We've come to realize that cells are not just simple compartments, but sophisticated, lively microcosms bustling with activity. Now imagine a world teeming with diversity, a world where no two individuals are exactly alike. That's the world of cells for you. From the cells of humble yeast to those of a majestic blue whale, each cell is unique, tailored to the organism it belongs to. Consider the human body, a marvel of biology housing trillions of cells. Each cell, whether it's a nerve cell in your brain or a muscle cell in your heart, has a specific role to play. It's astounding to think that such a complex organism begins its journey as a single cell, isn't it? And let's not forget about the microscopic organisms, the bacteria and the archaea, each a single cell in its entirety. These single-celled organisms, despite their simplicity, perform functions vital to life on Earth. The diversity, complexity, and sheer number of cells are awe-inspiring. But remember, at their core, all these cells share a common purpose: to sustain life. Each cell, regardless of its type or origin, carries out functions that contribute to the survival and reproduction of the organism it belongs to. So the next time you look at a living thing, remember that beneath the surface, there's a bustling world of cells at work. Every living creature, from the smallest microbe to the largest mammal, is made up of these fascinating building blocks called cells. Did you know that there are two major types of cells? Yes, indeed. The world of cells is divided into two main categories: prokaryotic and eukaryotic. This distinction is based on their structure and complexity. Let's start with prokaryotic cells. These are the simplest form of life, with no nucleus or other specialized compartments. They're like the one-room apartments of the cellular world. Everything they need to survive and reproduce is packed into a single space. Examples of prokaryotes include bacteria and archaea, the tiny organisms that can live in extreme environments like hot springs or the icy depths of the ocean. On the other hand, we have eukaryotic cells. They're more complex, like a mansion with many rooms. Each room, or organelle, has a specific function. The nucleus, for instance, is the control center where the cell's DNA is stored. Other organelles, like the mitochondria and chloroplasts, are responsible for energy production. These cells can be found in plants, animals, fungi, and protists. One significant difference between these two types of cells is size. Eukaryotic cells are generally much larger than their prokaryotic counterparts. Think of a basketball compared to a marble. This larger size allows eukaryotic cells to have more specialized compartments, supporting more complex life forms. Another key difference lies in their DNA. In prokaryotes, DNA is circular and floats freely within the cell. But in eukaryotes, DNA is linear and contained within the nucleus, protected from the rest of the cell. So, what does this all mean? Well, these differences in cell structure and complexity have allowed for the diversity of life we see on Earth today. From the smallest bacteria to the largest trees and animals, all life relies on either prokaryotic or eukaryotic cells. So, while cells may all share certain characteristics, they can be vastly different in structure and complexity. And that's what makes the study of cells so fascinating and crucial to understanding life itself. Imagine a city. Now imagine that city shrunk down to microscopic size. That's basically what a cell is. Just like a bustling metropolis, a cell is brimming with activity, with various parts working together to maintain life. Let's take a tour of this microscopic city. Our journey begins with the cell membrane, the city wall, if you will. It's a protective barrier that keeps the cell's contents in and harmful substances out, while allowing nutrients to enter and waste products to exit. Next, we move into the cytoplasm, akin to the city's landscape. It's a gel-like substance where all the cell's organelles or structures reside. It's also where many of the cell's metabolic reactions take place, much like how a city's activities happen on its streets and buildings. Speaking of buildings, let's visit the mitochondria, the power plants of the cell. They generate most of the cell's energy supply, just as power plants fuel a city. Without them, the cell wouldn't have the energy to perform its functions. And what's a city without its command center? The nucleus acts as the city hall of the cell. It houses the cell's genetic material, DNA, which contains the instructions for all cellular activities. Let's not forget the endoplasmic reticulum, the cell's transportation system. Like a city's roads and highways, it's a network of tubes that transport proteins and other materials from one part of the cell to another. And of course, the city wouldn't function without its workers. The ribosomes are the cell's factories, producing proteins that are essential for the cell's various activities. There are many other structures within the cell, each with its own role, like the Golgi apparatus, the post office of the cell, packaging and distributing proteins, and the lysosomes, the city's waste disposal system, breaking down waste materials and cellular debris. Just as a city needs its various structures to function, a cell relies on its different parts to live and thrive. And remember, this is just one cell. Imagine the complexity and beauty of trillions of these cells working together to make up every living organism. So, we've discussed what a cell is made of, but what does a cell do? Well, let's dive right in. Cells are like bustling cities, teeming with activity at every corner. Each cell carries out a range of functions, all crucial to the sustenance of life as we know it. One of the most vital tasks a cell performs is energy production. Just like a power plant in a city, cells have their own powerhouses called mitochondria, which convert the food we eat into energy our bodies can use. This energy is stored in a molecule called ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, and it powers everything we do, from running a marathon to simply blinking our eyes. Another significant function of cells is protein synthesis. Proteins are the workhorses of the cell, carrying out a wide array of tasks. They serve as enzymes, speeding up chemical reactions. They form the structure of our bodies, like our muscles and skin. They even fight off invaders as antibodies in our immune system. Cells read the instructions in our DNA to build these proteins, a process that's a bit like following a recipe to bake a cake. But cells don't just create things, they also break them down. Lysosomes, often referred to as the cell's garbage disposal, digest unwanted materials, recycling them into useful components. This process, called autophagy, helps keep the cell clean and efficient. And let's not forget communication. Cells constantly chatter with each other, sending and receiving signals. This cellular dialogue helps coordinate everything from our growth to our response to a tasty meal. Lastly, cells are the ultimate multitaskers, balancing all these functions while also preparing to divide and create new cells, ensuring the continuation of life. So, when you ask what a cell does, the answer is simple. A lot. Each cell is a microcosm of complexity, humming with activity, constantly working to keep us alive and well. Without cells performing these vital functions, life as we know it would not be possible. How do we go from one cell to a whole organism with trillions of cells? Now that's a question that keeps biologists up at night. The answer is fascinating, and it's all about cell division. Cell division is the process by which a parent cell divides into two or more offspring cells. It's a bit like a cell creating its own clone, a perfect copy of itself. This is the magic trick that allows us to grow from a single cell into a complex organism made up of trillions of cells. There are two main types of cell division, each with its own special purpose. Let's start with mitosis. Mitosis is the process where a single cell divides to produce two identical cells, each with the same number of chromosomes as the parent cell. This is how our bodies grow and how they repair themselves. If you've ever cut yourself and watched the skin grow back, you've seen mitosis in action. Next, we have meiosis, which is a little more complex. Meiosis is the process where a single cell divides twice to produce four cells, containing half the original amount of genetic information. These cells are our sex cells, or gametes, used in sexual reproduction. So when a sperm and an egg come together, they each bring half the genetic information needed to create a new organism. That's why we all have traits from both our mother and our father. So, you see, cell division is not just about growth, it's about diversity, survival, and regeneration. It's about creating new life and sustaining the old. It's about healing wounds, both literal and metaphorical. It's the engine that powers life as we know it. Through cell division, life is able to grow, reproduce, and even heal itself. And that, my friends, is the magic and wonder of biology. The story of life, in all its complexity and beauty, begins and ends with the humble cell. We've learned a lot about cells today, but why are they so important? Central to life as we know it, cells are the building blocks of all living organisms, from the smallest bacteria to the largest mammals. They are the smallest unit of life capable of carrying out all the functions of life. from converting nutrients into energy to repairing bodily damage. In the realm of health, cells play an essential role. Our body's ability to fight off diseases, heal wounds, and regenerate relies on the efficiency and health of our cells. When cells function properly, we thrive. But when they malfunction, disease can take hold. Think about conditions like cancer, where cells divide uncontrollably, or genetic disorders, where a defect in a single cell can have widespread effects on an individual's health. Understanding these cellular processes and dysfunctions is key to developing treatments and cures. That's where medical research comes in. Scientists study cells to understand how they work, why they sometimes don't, and what we can do about it. This research has led to significant advancements, from antibiotics that kill bacterial cells to innovative cancer treatments that target specific cellular processes. Cell research is also crucial in the fight against global health threats. Consider the current efforts to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. Researchers are studying the virus at a cellular level to understand how it invades human cells, how our immune cells respond, and how we can intervene to stop the virus in its tracks. In the future, cells will continue to play a vital role in medical research and innovation. With advancements in technology, we are delving deeper into the cellular world, uncovering new insights, and developing novel treatments. From stem cells that can regenerate damaged tissues to engineered cells that can fight diseases, the possibilities are endless. So why are cells important? They are the foundation of life, health, and disease. They drive scientific discovery, medical advancements, and our understanding of the world around us. From understanding disease to developing new treatments, cells are at the forefront of biological research and discovery. So let's recap what we've learned today. Our journey began in the intriguing world of cells, the fundamental building blocks of life. We discovered that there are two main types of cells, prokaryotic and eukaryotic. The former are smaller and simpler, found in organisms like bacteria, while the latter are larger and more complex, making up plants, animals, and humans. We then delved into the structure of a cell. We learned that each cell, whether it's prokaryotic or eukaryotic, is a mini-universe in itself, complete with its own set of components. These include the nucleus, mitochondria, ribosomes, and cytoplasm, each playing a unique role in the cell's function. Speaking of functions, we explored how each cell, in its own right, is a living entity. It eats, grows, reproduces, and even dies. It's a dynamic and active unit that contributes to the overall functioning of an organism. We saw how cells communicate with each other, how they repair themselves, and how they create energy. We also studied cell division, a process that is crucial for growth, repair, and reproduction in organisms. We learned about mitosis, where a cell divides into two identical daughters, and meiosis, where cells divide into four genetically different cells for sexual reproduction. Lastly, we underscored the importance of cells. These tiny structures are not just the building blocks of life, they are the reason for life itself. They form tissues, organs, and organ systems, enabling us to function, grow, and thrive. Without cells, there would be no life. So as we wrap up, let's appreciate the beauty and complexity of cells. They are tiny yet mighty, simple yet intricate, ubiquitous yet unique, and as we continue to explore and understand them, they continue to surprise and amaze us with their capabilities and mysteries. Next time you look at a living thing, remember that it's made up of countless cells, each one a microscopic city bustling with activity. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the fascinating world of cells.